Okay.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Lead with Giants TV. My name is Tal Schnall. I'm your host today. And today I have a special guest. Lee Cockerell is with us. He's the former Executive Vice President of Operations, Walt Disney World. Lee, welcome to our show this morning.
Hey there. Good to be here.
Good, good. Now you're out in Orlando, Florida, and I know Dan was lived there for a while in Sarasota, so we've got some common theme here, Floridians, and one of them moved to Austin, Texas. So let me say hello to my co-host as well, Dan Forbes. Welcome, sir.
Hi, Dan.
Hi,
Good.
welcome, Tal. Good to be with you today. It's been a while since I've been on an episode, so this is a great one. Thanks for having this.
Great. And Liz is joining us from Utah.
That's right, and
Wow.
we've got 10 inches of snow the
No,
last
you
couple of days.
don't.
So, yes, we do.
You need to
So,
give it.
but
You need to give it to California. I think they're hurting for
I
it.
know. But good to be here.
Thank you.
Great. Glad you can join us. And Liz has been co-hosting with me for many of these shows. And what we do is we definitely invite special people such as Lee, entrepreneurs, innovators, people who are leaders in their field. And I've been meaning to talk to and connect with Lee for the longest time. I've read his book in case nobody knows. It's called Creating Magic. It's right here on the screen for you, and it's 10 common sense leadership strategies from a life at Disney. And one thing I have to say, you do have to have common sense in the hospitality field. So he's right there on that. But I'm really always inspired, and I actually I do coach and consulting on customer service. So your ideas are very things that inspire people, and I really like to share some of the stories that you share. But let's go right into the interview, and I'm really thrilled to have you on our show, Lisa. Welcome.
Thank you.
So just a quick introduction for those of you who don't know Lee, and I'm really excited. He has held several various executive positions in the hospitality and entertainment business with brands like as Hilton Hotels for 8 years and the Marriott Corporation for 17 years before joining Disney in 1990 to open the Disneyland Paris project. I'm thrilled to have him on our show today so we can gain some insights from his wisdom on hospitality leadership, and I could have not asked for a better leader to come on the show today. So let's get started. Lee, you came up through the ranks in the hotel business. That was pretty much the traditional model. I've been in the hotel business for almost 20 years, and that was kind of how I grew up in the hotel business. Marriott, Hilton, and Disney, obviously. But share with us, how did your transformation from being a manager to a leader happen to you? Share with us with that.
Well, I started out back in 1965 at the Washington Hilton, and I didn't know anything about management or leadership. I was just glad to get a waiter's job so I could pay for my apartment. And I did that for a while as a banquet waiter at the Washington Hilton when it opened 50 years ago, by the way, this last
Wow.
March. And I got promoted to a management training program, and I think people say, "How'd you get that?" Because I dropped out of college in 1964, went in the Army. I was not a good student. Actually, my teachers are probably turning over in their graves to know that Lee Cockrell was running this. I was the most likely not to succeed. So I tell people, never underestimate what you can do. But I got on this management training program, and I did that. I was food and beverage controller. Then I worked at the Chicago Marriott or Chicago Hilton, and then I worked at the Waldorf Astoria for 3 years in New York, and then I went to Los Angeles, and then I had a boss there I couldn't stand, and he was yelling all the time, so I quit. And I went to took another job that doubled my salary, but I got fired after 90 days, so that didn't work out too well, and the place was really in trouble. Joined Marriott. I was as a restaurant manager. Stayed with Marriott 17 years, became vice president of food and beverage planning for the company. And I got recruited by Disney in 1990, and they wanted me to go to France, and my wife concurred with that pretty quickly to live in Paris.
Well,
And
and you know,
go ahead. Go ahead.
there was as I was reading through the story, there was a kind of couple of scenarios where really kind of taught you the lessons okay, I really need to start learning about leadership. I really need to change, and I really need to kind of move from that manager role to a leadership role. What was that kind of transformation that you had to kind of reflect upon and say, okay, I need to do something different?
Well, I didn't really know what great leadership looked like. I was working in the 60s and 70s. Most of the leaders were misbehaving in the hotel business, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah.
Going out with the cocktail waitresses or drinking too much or doing all kinds of things they shouldn't do. So I was having pretty bad role models. So when I became a manager, I was just as autocratic as everybody else I'd worked for. I thought that's how you did it. You
Hmm.
talk about the power of role modeling, and I managed that way for probably 15 years. That I got a lot done. I was a good manager because I'm very reliable, I'm very organized, and I keep my promises. I follow due dates. I know exactly when it's due, and I don't miss it. I'm very compulsive, actually.
Right.
And I went along, and once I had a situation, I went out. I was vice president of food and beverage, and I went out to visit the food and beverage director in El Paso. And when I got there, they said he had been transported to the hospital because he was so nervous about Lee Cockerell coming.
Hmm.
And my reputation, my nickname was Doberman. So you can imagine it wasn't very good. I found that out later, but today I'm a Cocker Spaniel, so I've changed. But I was embarrassed about that. And he and I had dinner that night, and he told me my reputation had gotten there before I did. And they said, Lee is tough. He will find something wrong. You'll be sorry he came here. And so I went back and I started thinking about that. And I'll tell you the main reason I was like that. I was insecure. I grew up, no college degree. I was struggling. I was always afraid I was going to get fired. I didn't trust anybody. And I always tell people when you're insecure, you're probably raising your voice and mistreating people and trying to intimidate people. And I went back and I went to a leadership course down at the University of Kentucky for 3 or 4 days. And then I started reading about leadership. I started rethinking it. I really thought about my mother and grandmother would kill me if they knew I was treating people that way. I knew better. Uh, Especially my grandmother, a good Southern Baptist. She would have really worked me over.
Oh yeah.
But, I started thinking about it, and I slowly changed over the years. I started trusting people more. It took a long time, though. It was a slow change to go from I didn't trust anybody in those days, and I just set high demands, and I probably abused my authority and my position by intimidating people. And slowly but surely, I started to see that when you hire great people and you train them and you give them authority, you can trust them. And so I moved further and further away from having to be involved in every single thing, from micromanaging people, from being so demanding. And I started to get great results. And then when I went to Disney, I could fully practice a better style because at Marriott, had this reputation. And I tell you, sometimes your reputation follows you. If you stay in the same company, people have long memories. They don't forget. And even though you may have changed, people don't believe it. And it's kind of
Right.
like a dog biting. You really never pet that dog again, no matter
Yeah.
what the owner tells you about it.
Right.
So I followed things, and I went to Disney, and I really started practicing great leadership. And I would tell you that today, it's become what I practice. I talk about it. I teach people. I try to get people to have a perspective on it. Leadership. I always tell people the best leaders in the world are usually parents, if they're good parents. And I'm going to write a book someday called Manage Like a Mother, because mothers are the best leaders in the world. They don't care if you're happy. They want you to be successful, and they deal with the hard things. And I really learned a lot about rethinking my own behavior, I guess, was my problem. I had to rethink my own behavior and have a good conversation with myself that I was most of my problem. It wasn't other people, it was me. And so I slowly changed, and I read about leadership, and I read about leaders that didn't have any authority, and how did Gandhi and Martin Luther King and the people, how they made hard decisions and stayed on task. And I slowly but surely got it. And today I get it. And
You've done something right, and it's a very, very inspiring story to all of us. That's why I encourage people to actually read the book, because he shares a lot more in those stories that it has changed of heart. And I know in your second book about customer service, customer rules, you do share that we want to lead like our mother, and then how would our mother treat our customer? Would she say certain things to our customer? Would she treat us? If your mother was here in the restaurant, how would you treat her? That kind of thing. So a lot. I'm learning a lot from that. I've been in the business for 20 years, but I'm learning a lot that attitude is really important. So thank you for that. Let me have some of our co-hosts see if they have any questions for us. So let's start with Dan.
Yes, I do. Follow up to what you were just saying, Tal. I just concluded a coaching session this morning with a business owner who was actually saying that he treats his customers like he would treat his mother. So that's one of the rules that he operates his business by. So it was really timely that you said that. So Lee, yeah, thanks for sharing that one story. I was wondering what is the what's the biggest leadership lesson that took you the longest to learn, and how did you learn it?
I think the lesson was to learn that everyone is important, no matter what position or what level they are, and that everybody deserves to be respected. And no matter where they're from or what color they are or what sexual orientation or religion or whether they went to college or not. And that's actually the first chapter in my book, Creating Magic. Remember, everyone is important, and they are. And I think that whole subject too. The way I treated people, I wouldn't have wanted my son to be treated the way I was treating some of those managers, or my daughter-in-law, or my grandchildren. And that was just a hard lesson for me. And I think that's why and actually I tell people the reason one change I made is I just decided to quit being the boss and be a teacher. When you think about teaching versus bossing, you get a whole lot better at what you do, and people really appreciate you, and you get better results. So that concept, I tell people today, even if you're running a big company, be a teacher. Teachers are tough. Teachers will keep you after class. Teacher will make you do your homework. Teacher will be tough, but they also, the reason they are really focused on their purpose of making sure they create another great citizen. And that's what, somebody said, a leader's job is to create more leaders, not to make your life miserable. So that's how I think about it now.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, that other people are valuable. I think one of the problems a lot of bosses have is thinking too much about themselves. How is this going to make me look, and how can I make myself look better, as opposed to saying, how can I help you, how can I serve you, and how can we do this better?
No question. That's absolutely right. And that's usually an insecurity problem with big CEOs, and maybe too greedy. And I said, I don't need a lot of money. I just need enough. So I'm not going to kill people for another income.
Of course, for a lot of people, they never have enough. But anyway, thanks for allowing me to ask that question. I'll pass now to Liz.
Yeah, and I just want to mention one comment. We're kind of touching on the teamwork, because back in those days, that even 10 years ago, it was always about the leader, how the know-it-all. I know how to do certain things, and I'm the one with the answers. Today, it's all about using your support system to achieve that goal that the team together can achieve together. And that's something I know Lee created in Disney, working kind of a team magic, if you will. So that was a kind of a nice thing. But let me also let Liz kind of chime in as well.
Lee, I love your example of how important it is for us to reflect on our leadership style and assess what's working, what's not working, and always progressing. And I was wondering if you could maybe share some red flags for leaders that are in the process of assessing how they are leading that may point them in another direction.
Yeah, you said the word reflection, and that's one thing most people don't do, is reflect what happened yesterday, what happened with the conversation with your wife or husband or children, what happened with that coaching session you had with your people. Reflection. Every time you reflect on how you did something and discover you could have done it better, you do it better the next time. But most people just keep going forward. They never think back about what could I have done better yesterday, and those four, with that client, with that employee, with that manager, with my family. And I've really learned to think about yesterday before I move forward every day. What did I do yesterday I should have done a little bit better? Next time I will. But I think red flags are, if you drive up and everybody runs away from your car, you're probably not got a problem. If the boss is playing the theme song from Jaws, you probably have a problem. And I think when you don't know the truth, people are afraid to tell you the truth. And I think creating a comfortable relationship with all of your people and making sure that you practice that, so they know that they can tell you anything, you keep your confidence, You don't get them in trouble. You remind them of that all the time, because most people are intimidated by the position, not so much the person. I mean, I'm the nicest guy in the world, but when somebody went to see the executive vice president of Walt Disney World, this was like they were having a heart attack. I had to teach my office how to calm people down and tell them Lee's good. He'll be nice to you. I mean, really, it's amazing. Even on the phone, just come over. And I told my whole office when they come in, get them some coffee, sit them down. I go out and get them. Don't ever bring them into my office. I want to come out and greet them. I want to be totally focused when I meet them. And when they leave, I'm going to walk them out. I'm not going to dismiss them, because I know how intimidating it is to go see the title. Not until you get to know the person. That's all you got to deal with. And so if you don't know the truth, and you don't have a lot of people coming and telling you things, and if you're not hearing bad news, you probably got a problem. And how you react to bad news too. I got to where people told me everything. I told them I can't handle any surprises, and I don't want to see it in the paper before I know about it. And I had a great team at Disney who they told me things I didn't always love, like my ideas they didn't like, but they kept me out of trouble. And they would always comfortably do that for me. And I had a great team. And people asked me, how did you run Disney World for 10 years? And I said, well, I didn't know what was going on, but I had people around me who did. And that was the key to my success, was really, I don't really care how much better you are than I am. If I need an engineer, I'm not an engineer, so I need a good one. I went down that path, and then I focused on the things I'm good at, which was making sure we were hiring the right people and promoting the right people. I was very involved in training, testing people after they get trained, and enforcing the training, and then getting the culture right. I wanted to be a good role model for creating a culture where everyone matters and they know they matter. And that's over the years we did that at Disney. I would tell you the average cast member at Disney will tell you their boss cares about them, and that's not most companies. And you got to create that culture. And I think if you do those three things, you hire great people, train them, and create a culture where everybody wakes up in the morning excited to come to work versus hating it, then you got something that really goes right to the bottom line and goes right back to your customer service. So my wife gives me a lot of feedback on what I need to get better in. And luckily I
think they just do that naturally.
I had 2 or 3 people that did the same thing. They were very candid with me, and they were some of the best performers I've ever worked with in my whole career, because they were not afraid of me, and I encouraged it. I never let them down. Every time they told me something, I made sure it got handled properly, so they didn't. Because once you handle it right, they'll keep coming back. And if you handle it wrong, they probably won't talk to you again. I mean, we have to take. We're all trying to get to retirement alive, and sometimes it's difficult in big companies. It's very political, and I had to make sure I left the politics out of it. And that I thought about that every day. That am I displaying enough humility around here, or am I thinking I'm the big shot executive vice president? And my wife, as she told me, you're not the EVP at home, so go take the trash out. So that was.
Oh goodness, Lee always
and
has some.
her father was an admiral, and his wife told him the same thing. You're not an admiral when you get home, so do the dishes. So.
Hey, Tal, I have another question.
Sure, go ahead.
Are we doing just one segment, first of all?
Yeah, and I've got just a couple more questions from our Facebook customer service coaching Facebook group, so we'll try to kind of fill those in as well. But go ahead, Dan.
So let me be brief. A number of years ago, I read a book. I think the title was Inside the Magic Kingdom. Is that right? Yep. So, yeah. And so, Disney really set the pace for focusing on the customer. And one of the things I remembered about that book, and maybe you could verify this, or maybe it was exaggerated a little bit, but it was saying, people would save up their money and to come to Disney to spend their vacation, and so Disney wanted it really to be a special event for them, and that every evening they would actually do some repainting of some of the I want to call them hitching posts or things like that people that were visiting would go by, that they had such a focus on customer service. But my question is, what were the types of conversations that leadership was having about making sure that the customer experience was just the best it could possibly be?
Yeah, well, first of all, every employee, every cast member goes through one full day of what we call traditions, where they learn about the traditions of the company and the expectations for them being in the job. And I would say every day before we open every business at Disney World, they have a 5 to 10 minute meeting with all the cast members, and they talk about two things. Number one, safety, and number two, customer service. Today, really pay attention to the children, or let's really focus on the older people this week. And let's focus on finding out what we can do for them when you approach the table as a waiter. And there's a lot of clarity around expectations. Everybody wouldn't behave as well as they did if we didn't give them real clarity. The chances you running into a rude cast member at Disney is almost zero. We basically tell people, we're putting on a show. You're one of the actors. You don't have to be happy to work here. You have to act happy for 8 hours. And Disney World's the happiest place on earth, or else. And so we're kind of like your mother, or else. And that's what professionals do. You got a problem? Fine. But when you go on stage in front of the customers, we don't take that problem out there, and we don't text, and we don't take our phones on stage, and we don't ever get out of character. Everybody behaves. And we drive that home so hard. The red curtain opens every morning, and we're going to put this show on. And we got to have the right players. They got to be rehearsed. They got to do it the same way. There's only one way to do it at Disney. That's the Disney way. And we don't care about how you did it somewhere else. We'll be glad to listen to how you used to do it, but don't implement it until we approve it. I remember Southwest Airlines said there's the best way to land a plane. Let's just do it that way. And not everybody doing whatever they want. And so it becomes, I would say, peer pressure too. The cast members have been there forever. And the new cast member comes in, man, the peer pressure, management doesn't even have to get involved. You better have your name tag on. You better look right. You better have a clean uniform. You better have your hair cut. Get no piercings, no visible tattoos, no weirdness. And we're just tough about that. And we know we're putting on a hit show that's been running for 50 years, and that's the name of the game. And I think the clarity, this is what most companies don't do. You're not clear enough with your expectations. One guy told me, he said, you know what? After I told him what it's like to work at Disney, he said, I don't want to work here. That's like the Army. I said, yeah, that's right. Why, Disney and the Army are the two best organizations in the world. And, we have total clarity, just like the Army. There's only one way to do it in the Army. That's the way they tell you to do it. It's your way. And so just some of those basics, friendliness, cleanliness, basics. Keep it friendly, keep it clean, and focus on quickness, doing things faster. The basics in life are what people are missing. They're getting too enthralled with technology, and they're forgetting about the basics: a smile, and taking care of people, and a clean bathroom, and quickness, and get your food quick, and have a seat that's clean, and the table's been wiped. And I tell you, it's the basics. And I'll guarantee you, every business out there, including almost every hotel, they got such a complicated alarm clock in the room, you can't even use it anymore. It's you can't even set it. I mean, it's like out of control. And so basics. Don't get bored with the basics is my point of view, I guess.
Well, I want to visit Disney the week that they're focusing on the older people.
Yeah, there's a lot of them coming. I'm one of them.
I'll be sure to check that out. Thanks.
All right. Keep us posted on that experience. Lee, you kind of mentioned a little bit briefly in your answer there about technology and things like that. And I wanted to ask you this question because I'm always intrigued whether you think because of technology, is customer service or customer experience now is changing?
Yeah, it can. It just depends. You got to really think it through. What do you use technology for, and what do you use people for? And in another 10 years, there won't be a problem. Young people, they're fine with that. But there's a mixture of people coming to Disney World, and some are not comfortable with it. And so we're kind of going down both paths right now until people like me are dead. And then you can use all the technology you want. My grandkids will love it, and so it's just, I think, being careful how you apply it, when you apply it, and having alternatives. And so that's what we're doing at Disney. Technology is certainly important. The cell phone is the best thing that ever happened because now people can play with their phone when they're waiting in line for 2 hours to see the frozen princesses. They entertain themselves. It's a great deal. But there's a lot of technology. You got to be careful whether it works, whether it's accurate, or you get in trouble with it. So it's kind of you got to keep your foot in both sides of the line right now, I think. And some companies are doing a good job. I would tell most companies, the companies that still answer their phone are going to do better than the ones that put you in the voice tree.
Right.
I mean, there's just some things that people pretty much hate, like your cell phone. With. And and give people authority so they can make decisions. But I will say your people are always going to be stronger than your technology. I mean, you got to have both. You don't have great people who care and have empathy and take care of you. I just got a podcast a few minutes ago. I finished with a guy that does them for veterans. He and his family were here 3 or 4 weeks ago, staying in Animal Kingdom Lodge, and his son got very sick, got an infection, was in the hospital for 3 days. And when he got out, they were supposed to leave the next day. And he said Disney knew about this because they got him to the hospital. And Disney extended his vacation for a day free so the little boy could go to the parks the next day. And I said, I'm not surprised. I hear that every day, but the customer is surprised. And those people out there have the authority to do that. They don't have to check with anybody. They just do the right thing. It works pretty good. We had 52 million visitors last year.
Wow,
and a record year. And it's expensive. To come here.
Yeah, I was going to say somebody's making money. So, but that's very true. The only reason I ask is because of things like recently, Marriott and Hilton adding the mobile check-in device for our guests. But at the same time, when we are on these conference calls and things like that, it's always about the experience. No matter how much technology can be on your phone or your app or whatever, it's always about welcome the customer, use their name, create an experience for them. So with that technology, we must remember, as you said, know how to use it smart, but at the same time, don't take that experience, the human experience, out of the equation, because maybe some people prefer the efficiency, but they still want a caring heart, that mother attitude that takes care of them. So I think that's another key thing there, right?
Yeah, people really want it when they have a problem. I love Hilton too. I stay at Hilton's all the time because they have a very quick system for check-in. You're not there 30, 40 seconds, you're in. Right. What do you want when you get to the hotel? You want your room. You don't want to get to meet everybody. I don't care if it's mobile check-in, how we check in, but when I have a problem, I want a person. I don't want to be trying to go through your top 20 questions on site and all this stuff. Just help me get what you need. And I think it's going to be a long time before that changes.
Right.
Like I'm not for remote surgery on my heart. I want a doctor.
All right. Well, you see, Lee's a funny guy. He's got a sense of humor in it, so that's great. The last question I want to ask, and this comes from our Facebook group, which is Customer Service Coaching, but I thought it was a really great question to end up the podcast here is, what is your proudest moment in all of your career, and kind of what legacy do you think you either trying to leave in the world or you had it with the hotel business? What is your proudest moment?
Well, it might be a strange answer, but my proudest moment was 9/11. We did an unbelievable job that day. It's when leadership pays off, There's nothing I could do. It happened. We opened the command center in 30 minutes. We evacuated the hotels. We had everybody, 95,000 people out of the hotel, out of the parks in 90 minutes. We didn't know what was going on. Back to their hotels. We sent the characters and entertainment to every hotel. Everybody was stranded. There were no flights. All the rental cars were gone. People didn't have any more credit on the credit cards. We gave them free meals, free rooms, free phone calls around the world. Our cast, not one person panicked. They took care of the guests, and we still hear about that today. And I say, leadership pays off when you least expect it. You don't know when it's going to happen. It's like raising your kids. One day you're not going to be there, but they're going to do the right thing, and then you're going to smile because you prepare for things all your life through good leadership, and then one day something happens, everybody steps up. And that was the best lesson for me that day. Prepare, get ready, be a good role model, get people really inspired to be good leaders at every position. And they all stepped up, and it was terrific. And that's where I learned it's a whole lot better to be a leader than a manager because I could do nothing that day. Everybody had to do their job, and they all stepped up and did it properly. We have a big backup system. Every person that left the park that day, we handed them a paper ticket so they could come back the next day. I mean, we have this thing nailed down. We practice 3 or 4 times a year for crisis. And in the middle of the night, you get a call. We have to open the command center. We run a 4 or 5 hour practice session. So that day was no big deal. I knew exactly what to do. We did it. The cast did their job, and it came off like clockwork.
Right. Yeah. That's a great story, and you're right. I know sometimes leadership can be challenging, but it sounds through your answer that it's also very rewarding and fulfilling for someone to experience that, knowing that you made a difference in the lives of others. So that's such a great advice. Lee, just kind of finalizing our podcast, I really appreciate you being in on here. Hopefully we can do this with your new book when it comes out, but tell our audience where they can find you or connect with you if you're interested in sharing that information.
Sure. If you want to know anything, you can go to leecockerell.com. I have everything on there. If you want to buy my books, you want to buy my app. I have an app that gives you daily advice on how to be better in most parts of your life. I have a blog on there. My podcast is on there. You can listen to it on there, or iTunes. Everything's on there. And my phone number's on there, by the way. I may be the only person in the United States that puts their phone number and address and email address on their contact list. I think most people don't want you to find them. I want you to find me. And I answer my phone, actually, when people call, and they say, why? I say, because I want to book business. If you don't answer your phone, they might call somebody else. So I'm really easy to contact. I get a lot of calls and emails from people asking for advice. And I'm also involved in a group called Thrive 15. It's Thrive 15. It's Thrive, the number 15. It's a website it's got over 500 videos on it. I've did 42 of them about how to start a business, how to interview, how to hire, how to fire, how to get a business loan, how to write a business, how to write a proposal for a business, how to public relations, how to use social media. We've got a bunch. We worked with David Robinson, by the way, out of San Antonio. He's on there. He's got 25 videos on leadership, how to handle crisis. He's an incredible guy. And we have about 30 mentors on there that give advice, everything from banking to franchising. The Chick-fil-A guys on there telling you how to get a franchise and how to run it properly.
That's great.
And I know you guys like Chick-fil-A down there in Texas.
Yeah, we do. We really do.
I know you like. I know you like.
Yeah, we do.
That's good too.
Yeah, it's like, I have the hotel guests always ask me, hey, where's the best steakhouse here? You guys are known for steak. Of course we are. There's like 500 restaurants here in town about that. So, but yeah, no, you're right. And no, that's great. Thank you so much for that. And again, not trying to promote this book too much, but this is a really good one. There's stories, examples of leadership that Lee had shared with you, but wonderful experience and real life examples there. So
one last thing I want to say to you. If people go to thrive15.com, if they use the promotion code MAGIC, they can use it for free for 30 days if they want to try it out. It costs them nothing. They can look at all the videos they want.
Good. Now, it's on my to-do list because anytime I get to watch you on a video or an interview, I get a lot of value. So it's on my to-do list. So, anyways, let's close off. Dan Forbes, you want to tell us about Lead with Giants community? We'll close off here, please.
Yes, but thanks for mentioning my favorite word, Lee, free.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, leadwithgiants.com. Our vision is to raise up 10,000 uplifting leaders. And we are doing that through our groups on LinkedIn, Google+, Facebook, and a tweet chat on Mondays at 6 p.m. Central Time. And people are welcome to connect with the community, become better leaders by visiting leadwithgiants.com. Lee, good to be with you today. Tal, great to be with you always on Lead with Giants TV, and Liz as well. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you guys. And I guess we don't have a free word for the Lead with Giants. It's just free. There's no magic password or anything of that, so you can just go out there.
Everything's free.
Yeah, there you go. Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much. You guys have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.